This is the story of a motoring event that literally spans the globe. It's not the first time it has taken place either. The first London-Sydney Marathon was flagged away a quarter of a century ago from Crystal Palace in London. That was in 1968. This is 1993. And many of the original cars and drivers are back again, including me, Ian Vaughan, and a fleet of enthusiastically prepared Ford Falcons. 25 years ago, I drove this very car into third place. And along with teammates Ross Dunkerton and Bruce Hodgson, we're out to repeat the performance, or perhaps better it. The London-Sydney Marathon is not so much a race, but a test of endurance, for man and machines. A test that will take us through 15 countries in 30 days. From the relative comfort of Europe, to the searing heat of India, and on to the freezing weather of the Australian Alps. The first major international landmark is Big Ben, for a quick check on the time so far. The first special stage was in the country lanes of Kent. Choice of tyres is critical in an event like this. Jerry Lister in his Volvo is about to find out just how important. Luckily, we were really well shod with Dunlop Formula R tyres, mainly intended for the tarmac sections though, so they were a little exciting on the dirt. Bruce Hodgson was also settling into the pace. The Falcon doesn't handle quite as tidily in the dirt as some of the smaller cars, so we had to improvise a bit. Laurie Beecham shows how it's done. While Rowan Quill demonstrates the pace that was to get him fastest time on several sections. A ferry ride to Calais saw us finishing the day at Ypres, Belgium, where we caught up on some of the stories of the day.
We got there and he said, "Follow me." I said, "This will cost you. We want to be at first." "Okay." He said, "We got no money." "I shared you one beer."
Next day, the first special stage in Belgium tested us on bitumen, a very different surface for Australian rally drivers. Bruce Hogarth from Tasmania is in the White Falcon, while Laurie Beecham, also feeling his way on bitumen at Zonabiki, came in 13th. We managed a very creditable third fastest for the section. Each night it was the same routine. Cars locked up in the city square while we checked them over in readiness for the next day, and straightened out the odd panel here and there. From Belgium to the picturesque German vineyards. It was about here that Bruce Stapleton discovered how to get more speed out of his Morgan.
I found this small pedal to the right of the other two. I think it must be something to do with that.
You go faster, do you?
Well, it seems to when you press it, yeah.
We didn't have that problem. The Falcons powered up the open road sections, but on tight bends we had our hands full keeping up with the smaller Porsches and Escorts. When the hills opened up, we nicknamed them 5-litre hills because the Falcon just loved them. After Germany, Austria. Car rallies aren't allowed on the public roads here, so we proceeded across Austria as an historic vehicle parade. It was one of the few chances we had to run Team Falcon in convoy. To Vienna, and one of the few special stages on dirt between London and Bombay. We took it carefully in order to consolidate our position. Not so marathon leader at the time, Terry Hunter, who's obviously not used to driving on wood.
I'm not very good on wood. It was a wooden bridge. We've got plenty of practice at tarmac and the loose, but unfortunately not a lot of practice on wood.
With the help of a few locals, he was soon back on the road with the rest of us, on the way to Slovakia. 1968 winner Andrew Cowan was back with his original Hillman Hunter. Not quite up to the power at Bruce Hodgson's command during the special stage up the Tvarditsa Pass in Bulgaria. I took a lot of care here on the broken bitumen, making sure our racing Dunlops wouldn't be damaged by sliding into a sharp pothole. It was a friendly tussle between us and the Monaros for Australian glory, but the Falcons managed to keep them well astern, although Ross Dunkerton is having a real go here at catching Trevor Eastwood in the hole. Ross was driving brilliantly to be fourth fastest on this stage, followed by Laurie Beecham driving hard and very busily to keep the big Falcon flying on such a twisting mountain road. Also enjoying this stage, Rowan Quill with a fast and very tidy run. We had reached Istanbul, and as the marathon raced across Turkey, the terrain was getting flatter and the weather hotter. Rivers were swollen with melted snow, and we were back on roads familiar from 1968, such as the Sivas to Erzincan section on day 9. Although in 1968 it wasn't sealed. And something else that wasn't around in 1968, 2 huge Antonov transport planes, specially rigged with double-deck car parking to airlift us and our cars into the chaos that passes for traffic in India. For some, the rest day in New Delhi meant sightseeing. For others, it was more serious.
I have a gearbox with a crack. Yeah. They've taken me in a taxi and I've been here and here and here to 4 different places and they can't weld it. I need a really good welder, top-class welder.
Day 15 saw us tackling a special stage in the Himalayas in blistering 45-degree heat. We were in first gear most of the way. A real test for transmissions and drivetrains, but thanks to BP oils we suffered no failures. By the time we reached Shimla, we had worked our way up to 10th place. Bruce Hodgson was also doing well, driving carefully and maintaining his position around 20th. While the rest of the marathon tucked into local tucker, we cooked up a storm in our hotel room, following a strategy based on safety on and off the road.
Well, we thought we'd reduce some of the things that can go wrong in the rally, and one of the things that can go wrong in the rally is getting Delhi belly. So we thought in the more risky countries we'd eat freeze-dried food and cook it up here in the room. We've got whole wheat fettuccine with cheese, it's cheese mornay. We've got freeze-dried vegetables to go with that. Before that we've got some soup, mushroom soup, and we'll follow that afterwards with these, believe it or not, ice creams. These are astronaut ice cream sandwiches.
The traffic in India just got thicker and thicker. Through the walled city of Karnal, trying to keep a road section average of 90 kilometres an hour was almost impossible. Dodging trucks, buses, bicycles, people, and even camels.
The only thing, of course, camels go so slow that when you're catching something up, if you see it's a camel, you know it's going dead slow and you've got to get right down to get round it.
Wherever we went, the Indian people turned out to watch. The Laxmi-Villach section was a good test of braking, acceleration and handling over some pretty rough roads. Rowan Quill was fastest through here while we came 7th. Bruce, meanwhile, was moving up through the field, now 12th fastest. But Ross Lamb's Holden HR made the mistake of catching an Indian bus.
We've jammed on the brakes, right? And then the bus has gone woof out.
Yeah, we're going to give it a cruise and an oil change now while it's over.
Maybe do a wheel alignment, we'll be there.
They weren't the only ones with problems. After 8 days of heatwave conditions, everyone was ready for a rest.
It's lovely. It's just lovely.
Unfortunately for Ross Dunkerton, India was the end of the road.
We've had a bit of a problem with the crankshaft. That actually broke, which was quite unusual because it had a steel crankshaft in and supposedly they are unbreakable. Tarmac doesn't suit me. You know, I'm more of a loose surface type driver, so it's been a real struggle for the first part of the marathon on the tarmac for the big Falcon. And that's why I was looking forward to so much to get to Australia and get a bit of dust and a bit of sun and a bit of dust up the nose.
All the Australians were looking forward to Perth, which marked the beginning of what we all knew would be the toughest part of the marathon.
Well, the roads will be rough. They'll be dirt roads. We've been travelling on bitumen sealed roads largely up until now. So we'll be out in the rocks of the Nullarbor Plain. We'll be up in the Flinders Ranges. Across the plains of Griffith, and then up through the Alps to Sydney. So it's going to be pretty fast and very hard on motor cars. And we expect the Falcon to come into its own as it did in 1968.
Been approached by a couple of vets that have said, you know, what about these scaroo things? I said, what are you talking about? They said these special things you put on the car to scare the kangaroos. I said, well, you don't have to worry about that. It's the emus, you know, because they're 10 foot tall.
The first special stage out of Perth. It was great to be back on the rough dirt roads we were used to. Beecham, Quill and Hodson were also flying. We had 3 Falcons in the first 9 cars. Rain near Esperance slowed some of the smaller cars, but not the mighty Falcon. After showing them how to do it, we ended up towing some of our competitors through. 68 winner Andrew Cowan spoke for many.
I'm amazed how rough it is and how difficult it is. The organisers did say there would be a bit of a sting in the tail, but if people don't sort of behave themselves and pace themselves, they won't get to Sydney.
Each night we'd find a workshop and check everything, tightening nuts and bolts and topping up all fluids. It was more important than sleeping. Back on the road, Francis Tuthill seemed to be taking Ross's advice about emus as he led the charge into Kalgoorlie in his Porsche. We weren't far behind.
Oh, it's fantastic. Good straight line Falcon stuff, nice big bumps and plenty of mud and runs.
What was your time?
11:45. 11:45, I think that's pretty respectable while keeping the car in one piece. Good on.
As part of Kalgoorlie's centenary celebrations, street racing at night thrilled the big crowd that turned out. But because of the rectangular layout of the city, it was easy to forget whether the next turn was left or right. The temptation to risk too much was great, but we managed to keep on the straight and narrow for 10th fastest time. Out on the Nullarbor, Tuthill was opening up a lead on Graham Lorimer, who was still in good spirits.
What a stage! Are you sure this is the right way to Sydney, though? I'm not convinced.
Well, yesterday was the toughest day's rallying I've ever seen. I've never seen so much damage to cars and machinery and a lot of very tired people. It was a tough day. We played it cool. The objective yesterday was not to puncture the tyres and keep the car in one piece, and we've done that. We started off 7th in Perth, we were 6th in Kalgoorlie, we're 5th here in Eucla, and if we can keep picking up one place a day, we think we can be on the front line at the finish. Although rough, sections through the Gawler Ranges were still very fast. Bruce Hodson and Ron Lawton were moving up through the field. Weather conditions were perfect. But this is where it ended, in a lucky escape for Dave Thomas and Jenny Britton in their Ford Escort.
Gently.
You will.
Okay.
By the time we reached Victoria, a surprise cold snap had dumped snow on the Alps and chains were recommended to cross Mount Hotham. But in the end, we went through without them to save time. The Dunlop 52Rs didn't let us down. Out of the Alps, and one more snow-covered mountain to cross. This is where I chased and finally overtook the leading Porsche of Francis Tuthill on the road.
Yeah, then we're going to nail you in the Sydney traffic.
We'll have an escort.
With Tuthill just 12 minutes ahead leaving Canberra, it was going to be a tense final stage in the ACT forests. But Tuthill's well-deserved lead was too great. The end of the Canberra special stage was also the end of the marathon. Francis Tuthill first by 14 minutes, and Ian Vaughan second.
Well done. Not quite as good as you wanted, mate, but it was pretty bloody good. Well done. Well done.
It was a superb feeling approaching the finish line knowing that we had achieved second place. And if you've got to be beaten by someone, it's all right to be behind a professional like Tuthill and his superbly prepared Porsche. Especially when you finish in front of 104 cars, including 7 other Porsches, 10 Rally Escorts, 9 Holdens and 7 Peugeots. The best of the world's classic rally cars. After 30 days, 18,000 kilometres and 15 countries, we were beaten by just 14 minutes. We were pretty satisfied.
It brings back tremendous memories of 25 years ago. 25 years ago we were third in the original London-Sydney Marathon, and this time we improved our position to second in the very same car, the same Falcon that we drove in 1968. We're very pleased to be back here.
And tell me, in 25 years' time, will you be back trying to be first?
Why not? Why not? The year 2018 is the objective. I'll be a little long in the tooth, but the car will be ready to run again. It's only just run in, really.